We're going to get a view now on the global economy from one of the world's top bankers. He is Samir Assaf. He's the Chief Executive for Global Banking and Markets at HSBC. Lovely to see you. Thanks very much for joining us. Let's start, first of all, what is your view on the global economy?
Well, the global economy actually is doing well and probably much better than we thought at the beginning of the year. The developed world has done much better. The US is going well, cyclically and structurally. Europe actually is emerging quite better than what we thought. The last quarter was a positive quarter. Now, emerging markets some of them are suffering a little bit, but I would say that now with the withdrawal of the cheap money, this is a kind of back to normal. Business cycles are what they are. Some countries in emerging market has done much better structurally than others. And the guys whom have not done their homework, actually, they are a little bit in difficulties now. But the global trend remained the same. Emerging markets actually are becoming more and more important to the world economy, and overall growth of emerging markets, despite these actual difficulties, is still very positive to the global economy.
So let's get back a little bit to Europe and the US and more of the developed world. We said we've seen a slight uptick that nobody really was expecting. And we've seen this sometimes before. You've had a good run of data, maybe over a quarter, and then it goes back to the same old problem. Do you think this is going to be more long-lived, if you like, this little bit of a trend up?
Credit giving to the central banks, actually. The monetary policy that central banks have followed has been very consistent, and I'm quite confident that it will continue to be very consistent to keep the economy going. In the past, there were stop and goes mainly for monetary policies and economical policies. And I think that what we have seen from the Fed, from the European Central Bank, and now from the Bank of Japan, actually is much more consistent and will allow the global economy to recover, or help the global economy to recover before these monetary policies changes. The forward-looking that the Fed has adopted, now the Bank of England is adopting, the ECB will in the near term actually take over the skepticism of the global players and will help the global economy continue up and running.
It's always good to have a positive view. Let's go back to the emerging markets a little bit. Where do you see the growth is really going to come from? I mean, you mentioned that longer term emerging markets are going to be doing well, even though we're having a slight difficulty at the moment. But where within the emerging markets are the places that everyone really needs to watch?
But the first country is China, and the world was a little bit skeptical about what's going on in China the last few weeks and months, and actually I remain very positive on China. I think that the policies that the new Chinese government is adopting are very good for the long-term growth of China. So even though we are seeing some short-term actually slowdown of the growth, but this is very good because China needs deep and structural reforms in order for its economy to keep up and running, and deep structural reforms are happening in China. So positive on China. I think that countries like India and Brazil, whom are struggling with their external balances and some changes of their fundamentals and infrastructures, will do much better when they will tackle the way that China is doing, actually, when they will tackle a little bit more their infrastructure problem in these countries. But look at what's happening. Countries with external deficits are struggling. Countries whom have done their homework, like South Korea, like Thailand, like some of these countries, are doing very well. And we're here in the Gulf, and the Gulf countries actually are doing still extremely well, and year on year better than the year before. It's because the global environment is getting better, and the countries who have done their homework are able to take advantage of it.
So whether you are in the emerging market or in the developed world, regulation is hitting you. It's coming at you from all angles, isn't it? What do you think an association, a cooperative like SWIFT can do to help the banks deal more effectively with the wave of regulatory compliance that they're seeing at the moment?
Well, first of all, the regulation that has happened is a good regulation. And the world, the banks actually needed to be better regulated, differently regulated than what was the situation before. Secondly, a lot of things are happening asked by regulators, mainly in terms of compliance and in terms of better standards, actually. And these are good things. And the industry actually will do what is required from it to comply with these new regulations, because this is the right thing to do. And SWIFT actually will help a lot the industry to get together in a more actually comprehensive way in order to respond positively to what the new world is asking the banks to be.
Mm-hmm. Almost every chief executive of a bank that I speak to, or high-level executives in a bank that I speak to, always talk about the challenge of new entrants coming in and, if you like, stealing the lunch is a phrase that we use in business school, stealing the lunch of traditional banks, these transformational changes that are happening in the banking industry. What are you most, I would say, challenged about as a banker yourself when you look at some of these transformational changes?
Well, this is a very interesting point. I think that the banks have demonstrated in the past and will continue to demonstrate that when we decide to embrace technology, nobody can beat us. We have the infrastructure and we have the know-how to continue progressing. And I think that, yes, there will be comers. This is a good challenge for banks, but we will take advantage of the way that they are challenging us to accelerate even the progress in order to deliver actually the right thing to our clients. What's very, very important, I think, and the transformational thing in the banking industry is that we're now much less product push and we are much more solution driven. And that's what the external, actually the challenges are pushing us more and more to be.
Okay, Samir, it's a pleasure to meet you. Thanks very much for joining us here
it's really
on
a
Sibos
pleasure.
TV. Samir Assaf there from HSBC.